we'll get straight into it.
Oops. Oops.
Just get my presentation up. Right. So thanks everyone for coming to Freedom Friday. I think a lot of people, some of you will probably relate a lot to what I'm saying, and there's probably some of it that you won't relate to. So hopefully I can present something that's of value for you. I'm just gonna let in a couple more people. Yeah, so I know a lot of us have done a lot of research on what's happening in the world today, and so it is about the matrix, and I am going to talk about who and what I think the cabal is and what the matrix is. So I am going to present, because you could say, the problem and the what's behind the problem. But I also, in keeping with my general thesis, is we must also present the solution. Otherwise, if we're just only trying to if we're only bleating on about the problem all the time, then all we're going to get is more problems. That's the way I see it. So I want to dig deeper and find out what's behind the matrix. What is it? And what is the occult as well? Because the occult is, to me, a big reason how the matrix has been created. Because the occult is the ancient knowledge, ancient hidden knowledge. That's what occult means. And it's hidden from us for a reason, because if we were party to the same knowledge, we could create the opposite to what we're seeing in the world today. Or we can create our perfect life or our dream life using the same basis of what's can create chaos, destruction, and all of that. So energy in itself, pure energy, is just neutral. It's when we put our minds and attentions into it that we can create, either for ill intention or for good intention. So I think a lot of people, when we talk about the world, we tend to lump everything into the same bracket, and we actually need to be very careful with our words and what we describe as the world. And the world is actually completely different to the planet. And when you just separate the two, then you can start to see how the planet is actually really a major key to our solution and to solving some of these problems. Especially when we connect to the planet more than we connect to the matrix world, then the planet will then look after us in a manner of speaking. So the way I see the world is the system. It's our matrix. It's the man-made construct. It's the artificial construct. It's our financial system. It's our government. It's the rat race that we're in. That's the kind of world. And world also refers to the world. The word is within the world. The word is what creates the world. That's essentially, we bring the world into existence through our word. And so the two words are very, very similar, because they are interchangeable in many ways. And The word is what helps to create our world interface. And to be whirled around, to be spun around is like a vortex. And the world is created through a vortex of energy. And so is the planet as well, actually. And I believe this is what's known as the torus. It's where we get the word tornado from, and tor, torsion field. It's all related to. So I see the vortex, or this whirling energy is what is the conduit between our world and our planet. And it's also what creates the planet. It's also what we're created from as well. Every human being has a torus around their body, a field of energy that's oscillating around. And the same with the planet at the poles. That's where the vortex emanates from the north and south poles and loops around to create a situation where the world is actually spinning, the planet is spinning, but this torus energy helps to keep us from flying off. It also is, it's what's helping to create a counterbalance in gravity. Gravity is what balances up the world, so we're not all flying off. So when flat earthers say, the world's spinning, we'll all fly off like spinning tops. No, there's other energies at work that counteract that spinning, and that's gravity. That's what keeps us planted on the earth. That's what keeps us grounded. It's what also keeps us in a physical body. Whereas now the planet plane of ET, also known as Terra. Terra is also the ancient word for earth. That is our true home. That's where we live. That's the living earth called Gaia, coined Gaia. So the actual living being of sorts, with many, many other living beings as an ecosystem of which we are a part. We are not separate from Earth. We are intricately connected to Earth, or we're of Earth, and we're obviously a living being. And so we're a byproduct of the Earth, but we're also here as stewards of the Earth. And we're as connected to nature as everything else in nature is connected to everything. And our Earth is also known as a plane. It's where the word planet comes from, is an Earth plane. And that's a reference to our creation, how we've been created on various planes. And I will sort of explain that a little bit further on. So the Earth is really our ground connection. It's our grounded connection. It's also like a portal. It's a portal for us to express our life, our divine gifts, and we are actually an interplanetary species. Our DNA, it's been proven that our DNA is a collection of different species in the universe, in the galaxy, that are literally spliced in to our, or I'll say spliced in, but they're infused into our DNA through our ancestors come from off-planet planets. So how did the world matrix get created? Well, we had to go right back to the beginning of the planet's colonization. And when you get the really big picture, when you get the full history, obviously, this is my interpretation from years of study. So I know that, if things don't resonate with you, I totally understand. There's I'm not saying I'm delivering the truth, but I am delivering a truth that I think has merit through. I'm just been standing on the shoulders of other people who have brought this stuff to my attention. So basically, the Earth was colonized by a group of people, or a race from called the Anunnaki. Anu was the chief, and he had two sons. He had Enlil and Enki, and this is the beginnings of the creation story. There was Enlil was more the dark one, and Enki was the more light one. So right from the very beginning, we had a hero, if you like, and we had a nemesis. We had the light and dark expressed through these beings, and they came to Earth, and basically Enlil was basically ruling the Earth, but Enki had his own power, and Enlil was the kind of warrior one, whereas Enki was the geneticist. He was the scientist. And they came here to mine our gold. And originally, they came here to mine our gold, and then they started. Enki started to genetically modify some of the existing hominoids, as I am led to believe, and he created a certain hybrid. He created a certain hybrid race, also known as the Watchers, or they're known as the Nephilim. And these were giant beings. We've heard a lot of myths of Zeus and Thor and Poseidon, and and then you've got the Sasquatch, and you've got all these myths and legends of giant beings, as well as also all sorts of other sort of more hominoids, but big, but that have now go down in myth and legend as great beings of our ancient past, both, and some of them weren't so great. Obviously, some of them were. Again, there was good and there was bad, but basically they started interbreeding with the humans at the time, and they used some genetics. And it was Enki's vision to create a hybrid race in order that he could counteract what Enlil was doing, to create the best of the Anunnaki with their superior intelligent minds, with also the loving, more empathetic, heart-based aspect to the hominoids, to the humans. And we've had many great civilizations going back to Lemuria, Atlantis, Sumeria, Babylon, Egypt, Greece, and more recently Rome. Rome was probably the last empire that we had before the rise of America. And it's from Babylonian times that they created what's called the Babylonian money magic system. And it was in those days as well. It was like a fairly glorious civilization, but this is where a lot of the some of the cabal of the day were hard at work, also social engineering the people at the time. And there's been rises and falls of civilizations throughout history, and each of these civilizations, I believe, had a high point, and then they descended into chaos. But money was created in those early days, so was government, and military were obviously very strong. They were beginning to create religion. They had their sciences, and the education system, media, law, lot of what we've got today came out of these days. This is 6,000, this is 5 or 6,000 odd years ago that they were creating their matrix, if you like. So who are the Cabal? They are basically there are a few groups involved, but we collectively sort of refer to them as the Cabal, but it's actually really plural. There's actually a few different groups, and they are right now, they're vying for power. So there's not just one unified group that are all in harmony with each other. It's not the case. So you could say that they are made up of this 13 Illuminati families, of which we know the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are a big part of that. There's also many others. The Astors, the Lees, Li, Chinese. There's a few, I forget all the names. I have actually got the book somewhere, and it is an incredible book. Then there's there's the dragon families. There's what's known as the Merovingian lineage, and then you could say the reptilian Anunnaki lineage, of which all of these ones are all probably intertwined with. And then there's off-planet ETs who have had, I believe, were responsible for creating our actual you could say the infrastructure or the actual grid, the actual blueprint for our world. I think the ETs had a part in play with their artificial intelligence. And there are other factions who are attempting to exert their control, people who have got some power and they're just, they've got resources, but ultimately they're just minions really, who are just in great fear and are just very much, they're just representing the dark side of our world. And they also front up to big pharma, central bankers, the military, big tech, the energy industry, big food, the WEF, UN. I mean, you can make up all these names. And, I don't need to go into that too much because you're pretty well versed with them all. But I just want to just sort of indicate how they really all go back to their lineage, and they're attempting to basically, they feel like they own the earth. The earth is theirs. We're on their property, and they just don't want us here, basically, anymore. So what is their plan? I think their plan is basically, well, they've got two plans, or they've got probably more than that, but ultimately they are using control either to control us through communism or control us through capitalism. So you could say the left-wing politics is going down the communist route, and the right-wing politics has the sort of capitalist type control mechanism at play. And this is indicative of the duality that is everywhere on earth, the left and right politics. Divide and conquer through fear and mind control is really what they're about. By controlling data, money, resources, our health, the media, and all information. Basically, they control most of the systems on the earth. They control most of the resources, almost all the money. And so that gives them a reasonable amount of power, a fair amount of power. But it's really arbitrary power. It's arbitrary, or it's transitory, because it's not permanent. It's not really real. It's not. It's really just illusionary power, and we've bought into it, and we've accepted it, and we kowtow to these guys or these people because through fear and because we are born into it. And they use technology. They're using things like climate change. Yeah, I do believe climate is changing, and they're also manipulating it to make it look like it's changing more than it is. They use economic warfare, pharma to create, and these other industries to create certain crises that shape our behavior. So that's where we're in the verge of another manufactured crisis in order to direct us or hurt us or to shape us into the way that they want us to behave, the way they want us to live. So within all of this, I believe there is also a good alliance that is connected to benevolent ETs. Obviously, but I think the ultimate alliance is us. The ultimate alliance is humanity. And this is humanity's call to action. It's really, when we are united, we're far more greater force than what these cabals could ever represent. So I reckon when you're looking at the world and what's going on, we need to understand their motives and their psychology. When you understand their psychology, then you can understand their strengths and weaknesses. Then you can understand their Achilles heel, and then you can get to, realize that actually what they're trying to do is really, it's really destined to fail ultimately. If you look at history, every time they've risen up, they've always fallen. So we're on the cusp of another a cycle, another, if you like, fall of the cabal and the rise of humanity. So they believe that they own us and the planet. It's theirs. They say we're here first. So we've had enough of you now. So we kind of want to we want to get rid of you. And, just have, we know there's a depopulation plan going on, and they're doing it through slow, inch by inch, hook or crook. They're doing it bit by bit. They see themselves as a superior race. They see themselves as our masters. They see themselves as gods with a little g. They're highly psychopathic. Obviously, they have to be, and they're highly narcissistic, at least narcissists at the very least. And they are in great fear of us. It's why they act as the way they do, and especially now as they're getting very activated, that's a sign of their weakness starting to come, and they're starting to get a little panicky. That's a sign of their own fear. They really believe they're fighting for their survival as well. They do feel like this is their fight for survival, and they obviously feel they have the right to control us, and they're fighting also to ensure they keep control. They're very good at controlling both sides. The control, we hear the controlled opposition. They are very good at distracting us through bringing out seemingly benign or good characters, but are actually they're actually operating with maybe some of these actors, they don't know that they're being controlled, or they think that they are not subjected to the control, but I know that they are allowed to operate, and then the cabal kind of surveil surveil them, to keep them within the parameters that they want them to. They want them to be giving us hope or hopium, but they don't want them to get so powerful that then the cabal lose control of them. So they like to keep them on a leash. This is why they're always grooming new puppets, giving them the idea that they can have everything that they ever want, as long as they play by the rules. So we have to be really aware of this controlled opposition at this time when, a lot of people are presenting themselves as the benevolent ones who are going to help us rid the deep state and all of this. And we have to kind of be aware that to a certain degree, they are controlled as well. So their weaknesses, I see the weaknesses in the cabal. They cannot create. They're not creators. They get us to create everything. We're the creators. So that's clearly our strength, one of our strengths. They need our energy. They need our energy to survive, because they live in this dark world. The way they don't get their energy through light means, through love, through natural means. They actually steal our energy, and they basically live or feed off our fear, and they feed off our panic, and they feed off our money, our resources. They feed off our labor, our sweat, all of that. They literally feed off energy. And their another weakness is they're obviously very few in numbers compared to us. And they're also, there's a lot of infighting going on amongst the different factions. So I see this is their weaknesses. Their strengths are that they own most of the key resources. They control, to this point, still the media. They control the money. They control the minerals. They operate in high secrecy, which really gives them a bit of a leg up. They're highly organized. They will fight to the death. They can enroll a lot of willing, ignorant puppets into their to do their donkey work. They are very, very compartmentalized. So that means a lot of those puppets, they have no idea what the agenda is. They are just doing what they either feel is right, or they're doing purely because they fear their masters, or they're doing it because of the money, the fame. We see that in the acting sector, music industry. So, these people they're so compartmentalized. The left hand doesn't know what the right's doing. And even the ones we would say, are high up, who you think are running the world, they are actually being controlled by someone further above, a hidden hand, if you like, or hidden beings that we haven't yet fully seen. And they also use inversion of words and inversion of goodness and truth. So you see that all the time. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like they'll say that they'll use a rainbow for the transhumanist movement. So they're really usurping a very beautiful symbol that represents freedom and energy and love, and then they overlay it with their darker agenda. Or they'll they've turned the red cross, which you think most people would think they're benevolent people helping to go into war-torn countries and all of that, where they're completely controlled by the cabal. Words get inverted, languaging gets screwed around. You just sometimes you just don't know what's right, which way is up, because they're so clever. They're so clever, but they're not wise. They're very clever at using the words to bamboozle us, to confuse us. So yeah, everything that's been good is being turned upside down, and everything that's bad is being portrayed with um, a false light, if you like. So yeah, it's hard to know what's going on. It's hard to pinpoint as to who is actually controlling this, and so that makes us all conspiracy theorists, because the masses are completely confused by it all. And yeah, so are us to some degree as well. We're only just scratching the surface. We're just waking up to this level. So the world is also the Matrix is a simulation, or you could say it's a hologram. And the Anunnaki, I believe, with their allies, have created this hologram, this matrix simulation, through advanced AI. Actually, AI in off planet, the AI is highly, highly advanced on other planets. And I know some people might think that this is absolute, crazy talk. But I've done a fair bit of study on that, and having come face to face with a few ETs and UFOs, I changed my tune. And what was given to me, very hard to describe, but I was downloaded with stuff, with information at the time, and I had many, many encounters. It wasn't just one off, ever since I was a kid as well. So I had to grow up with this for many years, and I couldn't tell anyone for decades, but I've got no problem talking about it now. It doesn't bother me. And I believe that advanced AI is somehow responsible for creating like a matrix grid, and it's behind a lot of our technology. It's behind computers, and now what we're seeing is actual AI come out directly. So I think AI has created the platform. It's created the template for them now to go to the next level, where AI is directly in our face. They're creating ChatGPT-5 now, which is generative AI, which means it can interact just like a human. They're implanting that in robots, and they're implanting it in the computer robots, but also in actual walking robots. And you'll be able to interact and have a conversation with it just like a person, except it can't create, it can only replicate. It can only replicate what it's given. So they're super intelligent in an intellectual way, but there's no real there's no empathy there. There's no feeling there. Not at the moment, anyway. So so I think that technology is a big part to play in our matrix, a massive part. So we're born into cradle to grave harvesting of energy. We're kind of harvested from the time we're born, so that doesn't give us any time to really, we're basically hijacked with our birth certificate, and with with the indoctrination into the education system and kindergarten and primary school right from the beginning. And the knowledge, their knowledge of ancient sciences and natural laws has helped them to create the simulation. The simulation is being created from the natural laws. They just use the energy, and you can create anything from the energy. Again, it can either be artificiality came out of the living energy. There has to be a source, and everything we see, touch, taste, smell is all ultimately coming from from the living representation of that we are. So the art of polarization, by using duality to their advantage. So this is how they play both sides. There's sleight of mouth. I call it sleight of mouth, where they literally talk out. They're talking about something with meaning something completely different, and completely misleading people. They use half truths as absolute truths. The climate change one is a perfect example. Climate change is an absolute truth, and it's not an absolute truth. Nothing is an absolute truth in our world. Word inversion, politics, money, again, but what I touched on before. The subversion of education, the use of subversive rituals. Like everything is a ritual to them. There's so many rituals. The court, when you go to court, it's a ritual. When you go to school, is a ritual. When you go in government, there's rituals. Everything is them playing out their ritual, which is further reinforcing the matrix, and we get to be subjected to it every minute of every day. We start becoming conditioned to these rituals as normal, and it's very, very subtle and very, very insidious. And when they've got control of our minds and we're so conditioned, we don't know any different. So the simulation is basically based on or created by mathematics, geometry, the understanding of astrology, occult symbology, and understanding how to use source energy to manifest their designed world. So they're using the laws of attraction for their own gain, because they understand electromagnetics, they understand how energy works, and you can literally design whatever world you want with collective thought, collective and individual thought, and all the other things they use to back it all up. So the world already, it's almost like we're already in a video game, and the video controller is, you could say, is our higher self. And our higher self is controlling our avatar, which is our body. And so in a way, the matrix is already a bit like a metaverse. The metaverse, which they're now all looking to create, so it's a world within a world within a world. We're literally living within worlds within worlds. And it's just different versions of it that's taking us further and further away from our original blueprint, our original design. So AI and ETs and the hidden truths. As I kind of mentioned before, AI is highly advanced in the galaxy. If you listen to some very, very gifted channelers and researchers like Michael Sala, Elena Danaan, these people are pretty advanced in their field. They've had experiences with a lot of these other races, and they're bringing through amazing information. A lot of this stuff is obviously not, it's very misleading, or there's not a lot of good information, but there is some good information out there. So if AI is out there in the galaxy and the Anunnaki came here, you could clearly know they would know all about it. So AI has to be influencing us, at least on a subtle level. And now that it's becoming developed actively in our face, it's becoming more of a direct influence. I believe there's positive and negative ETs out there, and I think a lot of the ETs the negative ETs are here as human. They pose as human. And I have seen a shape-shifting reptilian, and it's not pleasant, I can tell you. But it's a real shock. But once you get over it, then you think, right, then you get empowered. Once you've seen the depths of utter out the box, out the gate sort of depravity or negativity or shock and awe, once you come to terms with it and understand what's really going on, then you can get very empowered. And that's why a dark night of the soul, when you come out the other side, you feel quite empowered and bulletproof, and because you know that you faced your worst nightmare. And if you've survived the tale, you can often go on to be very, very do a lot of good work on the planet. So so the dark ones are most likely guiding our cabal, and there's positive ones that are also guiding people like Elena, Danan, and those others, and they're also contacting various people. A lot of people now have so many sightings of UFOs and so many good reports, but unfortunately, again, they get mixed up with all the bullshit and the illusion and the man-made UFOs, and so people constantly go around in circles in the Hegelian dialectic, as they call it, the Hegelian dialectic, where you just get spun around from half-truth to half-truth to no truth to portraying that as absolute truth, and on it goes. So I believe that the dark ones, the Kabbalah, they're just playing a role. They're playing a role to ultimately the role of the supreme creator of the universe. There's only one essential God, if you like. There's only one ultimate creator. So all the other people, including the Kabbalah, they're all part of the creator as well, which has been created essentially for our awakening. So I believe that these Kabbalah are ultimately assisting us to wake up. That's really why they're there. They're holding up a mirror to our own unacknowledged fears, our own dark side. Everyone has a light and dark side. Without the darkness, we wouldn't even exist, because light literally came out of the dark. First, there was you could say there was light before dark, and light and dark in an energetic sense is in perfect symbiosis, is in perfect harmony. Just as we see it as with the world, as we have 24 hours of light, 12 hours a day and 12 hours of night at the equinoxes. That's why the equinoxes are so honored, because they're paying homage to the light and dark being in perfect balance. And the solstices are where the light and dark is in its respective home of summer and winter. So there must always be dark and light. So we wouldn't be here at all if there wasn't darkness. And so that means that that's our job to face it and to deal with it. So many of the Cabal, I believe, here are trapped by the same people as many of us. Many of the Cabal actually are caught in the web of the matrix as well. They might have them fancy cars and whatever they want on a physical level, but I pretty much guarantee most of them are extremely unhappy. They're very psychopathic. They're very, they have a lot of issues. So that doesn't make them any happy. It doesn't make them any better than us. And they're certainly not living a free life. They might think they are, but But when the soul is not engaged and when the spirit is not home, I can almost guarantee that they're not happy beings. So this current battle is humanity's chance to break free. This is our time now to use this energetic point in space we're in this certain position we are in space, where we're completing a cycle around the great central sun. We're coming to the end of a long an age of a very large age of 25,920 years. Between 24,000 and 26,000 years is the end of our cycle around the great central sun. And that's, I believe that's where we're at. And so that means massive change is coming to the earth because of that, because of cosmic rays and because of our position in space, and because of the lineup of planets and a whole lot of other things that are divinely orchestrated. It's well beyond our comprehension. So Earth is like a duality school for advanced soul training. That's the way I see it. And we certainly are getting quite heavy training. And we chose to be here, but we've just forgotten our pledge. We've forgotten our pledge to ourselves and our Creator. So we come here with our memories wiped. That's part of the test. Is can we have our memory of our true selves wiped, and can we grow up through that and rediscover who we truly are? Because once we do that, we'll never go back. We'll never unlearn what we learn here. We never, and we need the difficulty of the dualities and the darkness in order to, even though it's horrendous and you see people getting, killed, maimed, abused in most horrific ways, it's very hard to stomach. But that's what we've got to somehow find reconciliation in that. They are very, these are like human kind of human shields in a way for this battle. They're sacrificing their soul so that we can actually grow. So, and they will come back around. Eventually, they will break free of that, and they will become more highly advanced souls. As we're all growing, we're all spiraling around, and we're all at different levels, but we're all growing ultimately. It just doesn't look like it sometimes. So we hear a lot about disclosure and that, and disclosure is coming out, but again, it's getting mixed in with false disclosure. And so we've got to be super discerning. It takes a lot to pick out what's true and what's not. And I think a lot of it is almost a futile search, to be honest. After having spent many years researching all this myself, I come back round to the point where I go, I'm spent all this time, all of this effort, and yeah, it has been good, but I don't think we need to spend all our time or too much time on researching what's going on in the world. We only need to know so much, enough to know we're not ignorant, enough to know that, there's people on this planet that don't have our best interests at heart. We get to know, we keep up to date with some of the news. But if you've noticed how you hear a lot of stuff, it makes you feel good or it makes you feel bad or whatever. We're all getting a chemical hit out of it. We get dopamine hit or we get a cortisol hit. It makes us feel bad, or the dopamine makes us feel good. But you notice how everything seems to be changing, yet nothing changes. The stuff that I was hearing 5 years ago about how the world was about to, everything from we're about to ascend to go down the toilet, and none of it has actually happened. And yeah, I know we are coming close to a major inflection point, but a lot of what we're reading as truth is really pure speculation. It's pure someone's idea of what they think is happening, and we take it on board. And then we find after a while, it's like, it's not actually serving us. So we have to be careful of what we see as true disclosure and what we see as false. And it's all happening on various levels, physical level, spiritual level, mental level. There's many different, but what's happening in the world behind the scenes, it is impossible to really know. So I do not put more faith and trust in people outside of you. That's what we do. We tend to put people on a pedestal, or we do the opposite. We trash them completely. But we shouldn't be trusting these authorities more than we would trust ourselves. That's a recipe for that's a recipe for disaster in my mind. So blind trust is really no different to a completely ignorant mass. We can't be ignorant of what's going on, but we can't just blindly trust the next person that's coming up that's saying, who appears to have the truth. So be careful of what you read, hear, and believe. Do not obsess and overly focus on the noise and the so-called truth or truth of people. We can respect them and we can listen to them, but don't take it as gospel. Don't take it as absolute truth. Don't see it as pure, their speculation. Purely, that's really all it is. It's highly subjective as well. Truth is subjective. It's the subject. It's someone's subject matter. This is what they see as the truth through their eyes. And often it doesn't mean it's true. But certain things do stand out, and use your intuition and try and just take the pearls out of what you resonate with and ditch the rest. It's really for entertainment and dopamine hits, as I said before. And spend time understanding the big picture, how we got here, what's going on. Understand history if you want to research history. It'll certainly give you a much better vantage point. But I reckon once you've got the nuts and bolts of what's going on, what I would advise is switch your focus to creating your best life, because that is going to be the best and quickest way to actually bring down this cabal. When we are not giving our attention to all of their crap, then they will dissolve and disappear into the night, because they need our attention in order for them to stay relevant. And our focus and our energy, and especially when we're giving them fear and anxiety constantly, they just thrive on that, and that keeps the whole charade going. But if we withdraw our attention from all of that, but we're still aware that they're there, we know what they're trying to do, but it's like having a kind of nagging parent there in you, but you're kind of not listening. You're kind of doing your own thing. And it's kind of what we've got to do. We've got to do our own thing and live our best life. And as we do that, we raise our energy, we raise our positivity, and will be the death of any cabal, in my view. So spend more time understanding the object of truth. The object of truths are like the natural sciences, and truths that don't change are objective. That's ultimately what science is. And energy, the way energy moves, it's always behaving in the same way. It never changes. And that is a that is something we can draw from and use as our foundation. And also the truth inside us as well. That is our particular truth, our what lights us up, our passions, our strengths and weaknesses, our own energy, and harnessing that is far more productive than letting other people outside of you bring you down through their uninformed, or should I say uninvestigated, so-called truth. So what created the matrix can also be used to create our ideal life. It's the same principle. We create from the same pool of energy. Just as the Cabal do, we can do the same, but in the opposite. So we've got to be a bit counterintuitive. We've got to take actions that are going against the grain of what the masses are doing. That takes courage. It takes bravery in a way. It takes a bit of energy to do things against the grain of what supposedly normal people are telling us. And one of those things for me, and this won't be for everyone, and I get a lot of backlash against this, but I know some of you here, you understand what I'm saying, is that we need to invest our money directly into the emerging technologies. Why? Because then if we are standing on the sidelines like we normally are, then they get to own even more of the resources and we will be left with nothing. And then that gives them they're occupying not just our head rent-free, but they're occupying our house rent-free as well. So we kind of got to, I believe, vote with our money, and our energy, and our you might want to go to the ballot box, but I think that that's so controlled. A far more powerful way to get a change in government and a change in our authorities is to vote with our money in places like the blockchain and crypto and even artificial intelligence. Because when we find that there is actually these technologies can serve us, they're not there just to enslave us, they can serve us. And when we understand that and we invest in that, we can help other people to see the same. And then the cabal can't own everything. They can't control us so easily, because we then get to have a slice of the pie. So we can either invest with them and help to protect our life and protect our property and our families, or we can just be a pure consumer and be completely dependent upon these same people who have then amassed all the wealth, which they almost got all of it anyway. But now with these emerging technologies and decentralization, we can actually compete with them. And there's a lot more of us than them. And as more of us get into decentralization and we start to invest in the technology that we resonate with, then they can't have all their own way. They can't, because we're blocked. So that's kind of how I see it. So otherwise we're going to allow them to hoard and own everything, and that is a recipe for fascism. That's a definition of fascist society. A fascist state is where the state own and control everything and we have nothing. Or you could say communism as well. It's pretty much, communism is just one step away from being full fascist. And so they bring in socialist stuff and the climate change as a stepping stone to bring us along to that path. So research the truth of technology, and find out how, just like anything in the world, there's good and there's bad. It's the same with technology. And you need to go to reputable sources, not social media. Go to the actual source. Go to the actual source of the articles, the source of the mouthpiece, the source of the people who are creating the stuff, the source of the influences and the people closer to the actual technology, and find out really what's happening with it and what it can be used for. So, the matrix needs the natural laws in order to exist. Otherwise, if we didn't have a planet, there would be no matrix. It's kind of quite simple, really. So we can tap into these same laws ourselves. This is what the Kabbalah have been doing for centuries, and they pass that knowledge on, and they call it occulted knowledge or hidden knowledge, so that we are unable to play in the same level playing field. And these are what I call the objective truths. The laws of electromagnetism, for instance, the laws of energy are objective. They are predictable. They operate in the same way every time, all time, forever, everywhere in the universe. So in order to create our life design, we have to understand some of these objective truths, or this is what science is. Science means unchanging truth. So this allows us, when we implement these ideas, this allows us to create a foundation, and that foundation will protect us as well as enable us to grow as a human being. When you're raising your energy because you're utilizing the planet's energy in a way, and you've learned how to harness it, that's your best protection, and that's also your greatest abundance, because you will start attracting things to you like a magnet, because that's electromagnetism. Magnetism is the emotional side. The electro side is the electric side is our thoughts, and the magnetism is our feelings, which ultimately comes from the heart. So these truths allow us to create what we need and what we want and what we can, we can create all kinds of infinite things. It's just a matter of where our passion lies, and where our attention goes, energy flows. So very important. And when you're doing this is obviously going to take a fair bit of work. So we've got to be patient with ourselves, and we've got to be peaceful in the process. We've got to be peaceful in the face of a very crazy, mixed up, upside down world. Because as soon as we get out of our peace and we get impatient, then that's when we're easily controlled again. So the trick is to stay balanced in a world that's doing everything it can to throw us off balance. We're kind of like having to walk this tightrope or the slippery pole, and they'll do everything they can to try and knock you off the pole. But if we keep practicing some of the things I'm just about to explain, I'm going to go now into the solutions. We can start to infuse or implement and apply certain techniques and things that can help to make us immune to all of the noise and the dark stuff and the crap that's going on in the world. So using the laws of attraction to create or actualize our life. What are the laws of attraction? Basically, first we have to do is we have to deprogram our subconscious mind, because we're all being controlled. We've all been, to some degree, we've been programmed because, we didn't know any better when we were a child. Our parents did the best they could, but they were mostly heavily indoctrinated, and so we got to be a product of their programming. So naturally we're going to be to some degree programmed. But we can deprogram ourselves, or we can reprogram ourselves. We can overwrite the old program by practicing new things. And basically it comes down to balancing thoughts and emotions, or aligning thoughts and emotions with actions that are based on that alignment. So when we act in alignment, when we think of something that we really know we want, and then we can feel what we know we want, and then we go and act on that. If you do that enough, you will start to create and attract the life that we need to create. And so really this what helps in this process immensely is knowing our values. What we value gives our life infinite value. What we find valuable will come to us naturally. So through knowing our values, then we can create value in our life. And it takes a while to figure out what are our values. What is it that we most naturally love? What do we love to do? What are we really here for? What lights us up? Things that I've done in the past, I mean, if people have got the resources, traveling is an amazing way to deprogram yourself and to relearn, especially to the sacred sites. Traveling is, was the ultimate learning education school for me. I basically ditched everything I learned at school. When I went traveling, I was like, it was more productive and more powerful than anything I'd ever learned at school. Understanding language, understanding words, how words are vibrationary, understanding also with words that we can then visualize what the words mean to us. Visualization, power of visualization is another incredible attraction tool. Understanding your higher purpose as well. Our purpose is really ultimately what we're here on the earth to do. And my purpose, one of my main purposes is to expand, to simply expansion, to expand my mind, expand my way of thinking, to expand my life on a physical level. That's what I call superabundance. And so for me, it's about expansion. It's also about, it's not so much what we do, it's about who we are. Our purpose is to be who we are and to exhibit those qualities. It's not about, your purpose is to create this business and make a lot of money. I don't mean it like that. There is an aspect of it, but that's only a small part of the journey. The ultimate purpose is who we are becoming. The empowerment of decoding numbers in astrology. I've got a lot of insights into who I am through numbers, and how numbers are actually what create this matrix. They're one of the key ways. It's without numbers, there would be no artificial intelligence. Without energy, there wouldn't be numbers. And without numbers, there wouldn't be a world. So everything is based on numbers and letters and words. In fact, words or letters are interchangeable with numbers. And a lot of the numbers are also references to the letters as well. And what the letters represent, what the numbers represent is even more important. There's a body of work called the Gene Keys. The Gene Keys are incredible. They've been very helpful for me more recently. But the Gene Keys literally help you to decode your genetics, your DNA. What you really love to do is encoded in your DNA. So with Gene Keys, it works with the I Ching, spelt I Ching, but it's it's pronounced I Ching. That is 64 different hexagrams or different shapes, if you like, that the ancient Chinese used, and the I Ching is a perfect representation of our DNA. There's 64 codems in our DNA. There's 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. And when you get into it, you will be amazed at how accurate gene keys are. Also understanding, as I've mentioned before, understanding electromagnetics and nature's or the hermetic laws are incredibly empowering when you understand them, and when you start to learn how to apply them, and how you can, just by knowing it, it helps you to automatically become more empowered. And yeah, it's because it's building our consciousness. It's building our conscious awareness of our place in the world, who we are, why we're here, how we got to be here, why why the cabal have to be here, why there has to be darkness and evil on the planet. It'll put everything into perspective when you understand those hermetic laws, 7 hermetic laws, and the other associated laws of electromagnetism, quantum science, and all of that. But you don't have to become a scientist, or you don't have to be like Nassim Harriman, complete genius. We just have to, just learning the basics is so powerful. So to go a bit more into the law of attraction, it is based upon the law of electromagnetism, as I've said. It's finding neutrality is empowerment. So we have a positive and a negative, just in like in electricity, you have a positive and negative in the battery. You have positive and negative to make electricity work. But we also need a neutral point, a ground point. And that's the key third principle that helps to balance us up. So without electromagnetism, there would be no light, there would be no power to power this world. And it's the same with us. We are an electromagnetic battery, and we emit an electromagnetic charge, and therefore it makes sense to harness that. So that when you're truly in the neutrality of positive and negative, the center point, the still point, the 0 point, that meant that the noise and distraction just remains out there, and it doesn't affect you, not to the same degree anyway. When you practice it more, I can look at the crap in the world now, and I can be quite impartial about it, even though there's horrific things going on. Doesn't mean I've gone desensitized and I'm not feeling. I feel it, but I'm not emotionally become an emotional wreck over it, like how I used to be in the earlier days. When we get emotionally reactive all the time, and angry all the time, and resentful all the time, then the matrix has really got us where they want us, nice and controlled. So it's not about being unemotional, it's just about balancing the emotions. So positive, negative, neutral. What we attract is magnetized to us by using heartfelt emotions with conscious thought. And this was written in ancient texts going back. The Dead Sea Scrolls, when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is what they were teaching. Affirm, visualize, feel, and know. So you can use affirmation. Affirmation's great, but affirmation on its own won't work. Affirmation with visualization and feeling will what brings, and then you'll know. Then you'll see the evidence of your earlier work. So visualize the process as well as the end goal. So a lot of people just visualize on what they want. I want this property. I want this perfect relationship. I want this. I want that. But really what we need to visualize is how we want to feel when we're in this, when we get what we want. It's about not chasing just the material things. In fact, really not chasing the material at all. It's about chasing the life that you want to live, where you feel happiness and joy and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with having material things around you, and that's a part of it. But ultimately, it's about your purpose and what we're here to, who we're here to be, and what we're becoming. But I believe that we live on a physical planet, and having certainly a property on land as a good visualization, because that's more intrinsic. We need a place to live. We need a base. We need a home to live in. The land can be used for your privacy, for growing stuff, for bringing up children. There's nothing better than having space, land, trees, nature. That is a magic playground for any child. This is how I grew up, by the beach, in the bush, and with very hippie-ish type upbringing, but it was really so beneficial for me in my later life. Know your why, your what, and your how. So that's kind of another Trinity there. I'm going to speak a bit more about the Trinity, but you've got to know why you're doing what you're doing. But we've got to know what we want. But we also got to know how we're going to do it. How are we going to be? How are we going to create this? And it could be something as basic as a business, or a project, or some money, or whatever. But you've got to have a how. You've got to have a path to get to your why. Also, you've got to know who you are, and really, it's not some highfalutin spiritual stuff of I'm from the Andromeda galaxy, and I am, a high spiritual priest in a past life, and I'm here to, that's sort of, to me, it's not. Although that might be a part of it, but really it's just more practical than that. It's knowing who we are, as our values, our strengths, our natural gifts, our weaknesses as well, our loves, our dislikes, what turns us on, what turns us off. What are we naturally drawn to? What do we love to do? And what makes us tick, what's our personality, character, all of that. It's all about just, really comes back to, I really put a lot of emphasis on values. And when you really unearth what your values are consciously, take them out of your subconscious and bring them into your conscious, then it comes, they'll start to manifest very quickly. Especially once you've deprogrammed yourself from your old conditioning, because that old conditioning will constantly get you in the way. It'll constantly trip you up until you start replacing that with what you are really here to do and be and have. So because this is quite important, I'll go into the subconscious, or it's also known as the unconscious. And so it is. It goes into the center of the brain, and it is really our unobserved thoughts that are creating our life by default. So there are beliefs and thought patterns and feelings that are running a program in the background, just like a computer can run a program in the background, but we are unaware of it. So we need to become aware of it. We need to start understanding what we're thinking, and what we believe, and what we're doing automatically, and sort of analyze whether that's actually leading us where we really want to go. Is it actually serving us? So the subconscious was basically, it's basically programmed by and large by the time we're 7 years old. So if we were brought up in a fairly dysfunctional household, or we had abusive parents, or we didn't have a lot of love, a lot of tactile interaction, connection, it's going to be much harder for those people, because by and large, we're already kind of set. So we've got to undo a lot of that early programming, and that can be very difficult, very traumatic for a lot of people, because you've got to bring back up all of that trauma that you stuffed down, and that's why we don't want to look at it. And then what we do is, while it's still simmering away in us, that's where then we get horrified by what we see outside in the world. When we see trauma, or we see people being abused and we were abused, that is going to trigger us, and it often keeps us stuck because we don't know how to release it. So it's tough. It's the shadow work. There's nothing more difficult than doing the shadow work, but doing the shadow work will be so liberating. And I guarantee that when you do that, then the state of the world and the cabal, you will not feel so bothered by it. You're still, obviously, you still can have reactions and that, but it won't sort of immobilize you into fight or flight or freeze mode so much. And the more that you work on releasing the subconscious, unconscious stuff, the more your life will just blossom. And that's basically what I've been doing for the last 14 years. I've been doing a lot of shadow work, unearthing all my traumas from childhood, and that were reinforced throughout my life at difficult times when I thought I failed, and when I created misery for myself. Eventually I had quite a traumatic experience about 14, 15 years ago, and that was when my life started to turn around, when I stopped and I started to see what I was creating, and then I went on a completely different path. Actually, I'll also say, just to go back here, so the neocortex, the frontal lobe, that's our executive center. That's where our conscious thought comes from. It's only about 7% of our brain power, but that 7%, we use that consciously to redirect the subconscious, or reprogram ourselves. That's where we've got to use the frontal lobe, neocortex. That's the executive center. And a lot of our fears are also at the back of our brain. They also can run our life and our instincts and all of that. But we have to be operating from the front. And the heart is the ultimate feeling center, and it will help to overwrite old programs when aligned as well. So the heart is really the most important organ, or center, really, in our physical body. But we have to engage the mind, the thoughts, the brain, as well as our body, our arms and legs, and actually act upon our thoughts as well. So another key solution is the laws of vibration, and I call frequency. So raising our frequency can raise our freedom. And actually the word quint means 5. I like playing. This is how I visualize what the words are really about. So There, 5 is a key number for freedom, because that's the 5 elements. It's the pentagram. It's the pentacle, and 5. We have 5 fingers on each hand. 5 is the center middle number. It's the number of balance between 0 and 10, and so 5 is my number as well, one of my numbers. But numbers, this is how you could start to see how numbers and words are interchangeable, and what the way the words sound, the way they look, where the way you write them, and also the ancient meanings of words. They can give you heaps of clues as to what they really mean and true. So there's no greater way to be free of the matrix than to be in a high state of energy frequency. That's death to a controlling, centralized world. We all come here with our birthright to be free, and that's my highest ideal. Is really, it's about freedom for me. Expansion to me is to be free, and this is our natural state. Grounded, healthy body, healthy mind, healthy emotions, aligned, aware, attention focused, free of baggage, which is basically free of harmful beliefs, purpose driven, values driven, living actions. This is all higher frequency type living. Love in the heart is a very high vibrational state, probably the most highest, but love needs to be grounded as well. It can't be just that all words and no real substance. Love is the ultimate creative energy that created us, but love also has to be expressed. And so by expressing love, we are bringing love into our life. So that's why we should be verbalizing it, not just to ourselves, but to others as well, those around us, and feeling the love in your heart, which is the hardest things, because that's where a lot of the traumas lie, in our heart. When we get, when we've got stuff that happened in our earlier life, particularly around relationships, you know what I mean, we tend to shut down. So high frequency is our greatest abundance and our greatest protection. When you're in high frequency and you're grounded, and your energy field literally expands out, and I believe that in this state, in a truly conscious state, we're in our own jurisdiction then. We're literally rising above the matrix. The matrix is a lower resonance, a lower frequency. And the more we raise our frequency, we then we kind of decouple from the crap of the world, and we'll start gravitating and magnetizing to our real community, people that see the same things as us, the same values. They've also done a lot of their deprogramming, conscious trauma release. And I reckon this is the most ultimate jurisdiction to be in. We talk about common law jurisdiction. I reckon when we truly understand our spiritual connection, and we are fully in consciousness frequency, then we can literally start creating our life to our own design, and nothing will get in our way, and we will be drawn to people and a community, and abundance will just be there. Everything will come to us because we are fully living a conscious life. So another tool that I use is what I call the Trinity, the Trinities, or the Trinitries, I call them. It's really it can be used in your process. It can be used to reprogram yourself. You can use it for visualization. You can use it to create that foundation. You're literally creating a new template. And that's why the Trinity is so important. In religion talks about it. They basically, they bastardized it. What it truly is actually it's how we create. It's the principles of creation. You have, and it's expressed. You got the number 3, but it can also be expressed through time and space, and through basically I got here the positive and negative. So basically you've got these distinct dualities that we're dealing with in the 3D world. We have time. So we're either living in the future, or we're living in the past, which is where our traumas live, but we hardly spend any time in the present. So when we balance the future and the past with the present, that's kind of like a trinity. That's balancing it up. So we remembering there's going to be a past to our life, and there is a future path ahead of us. But if we're overly in either one of those, we're basically, again, quite controlled, because we're the mouse on the mouse wheel. We're getting impatient, we get attached, we get expectations and all of this. But if we learn to be more in the present moment, in the now, then we are balanced up between the past and the future. And so that's one thing. Was time, they say time is an illusion. Time is not an illusion, but watching the clock and going by clock time, that's an illusion. But time is really just our movement through our life. It's the unfolding of our life. Time is always passing. And so we have to learn to find the still point again, to be in the now. And that's about being in the heart. Space. So space is another duality, like particularly above and below. So we have the duality of, we have a spiritual people, we have very earthbound people. And the spiritualists will say it's all love and light, so forget about the world. And I think that is a mistake, just as it is to be, there is no God and materialism is everything, and I don't believe in God, or I don't believe in the spiritual stuff. The spirituality is what created us. The spirituality just means energy, our energy body. So we have to balance the spirit with matter. We have to balance spirit with our physical body and our material life. And so to me, it's about bringing spirit into matter. And then that's when we are balanced. And then we've got the positive and negative, or we could say the left brain and the right brain. And a lot of people are either all one, they are very heavily weighted to one or the other. A lot of men get stuck in the logic and reasoning and their thoughts, and they get ruled by, they're kind of like constantly in a thoughts going round and round, and they're not balanced with the empathy or the love or their emotive side. And a lot of other people get stuck in the right brain, and they're not using their logic and their reasoning. So we have to balance the left and right. So if you think about it, this is what the cross is. Above and below is the vertical, left and right is the horizontal. That's the cross. And then when you've got time and forward and back, imagine a line running through ahead of you and behind you. those are the three key things that create our three-dimensionality. That creates the matrix. The matrix is really three intersecting lines that of energy, and when they're intermeshed, then that's when you start getting into the geometry and the geometry of things, and how the numbers are expressed as geometry. But that's just a sort of a basic, just to give you a basic idea of it. That's why the Native Americans created the medicine wheel, and they talk about the four directions, but not many people talk about it. They also believe that with the medicine wheel, and they have the east and west, north, south, which is also the left and right brain, and the spirituality and the physicality. They also had the above and below. So really there's actually really six directions. And what we've got to do is balance all that up. It's also all related to the elements: earth, air, fire, water, ether. It's balanced to, it corresponds to a lot of different elemental things, of energies, of our direction in life, of the way we think, the way we feel, and all of that. So Native American mythology is fascinating for this kind of stuff. So that's about enough on that. So you can create your own. You can just thinking about it is actually very powerful. You just start playing with words. And what I try to do is I try to create, like, say, you can create a three key things that my business needs, and I sort of try to think of something that's a foundational thing. You could say these are three values for my business. What is my business about? And basically, what is your life about? What's the three key things that you want in your life? What's the three key things that are important to you in your relationships? And and then you can start to construct. Then you can start to solidify and emphasize those, and then you find that then you start to really live congruently. You start living in congruence with your mind and your heart. You start going in the direction that you want to go, and you start manifesting things that you want to manifest, because you're taking the path of least resistance. So, for instance, there's some examples I've got is, so like you could say the foundation, the process, and the end goal is a macro trinity. That's kind of like the trinity is a model. It's a model. That's what they are. They're models. And as I say, you can have trinities such as thoughts, feelings, and actions. And or a good one is to allow, accept, and embrace. We need to allow is just to allow things to be, and then doesn't mean that we don't get affected by it, but then we can start to accept. Once we allow, we can start to accept the world the way it is. Even though we may not like it, we can start to learn to accept it. Doesn't mean we're condoning it. And then we can start to embrace, ourselves and the world for all its goodness. Well, the light and the dark will always have a dawn or a dusk. And so we will have a dawn and dusk as well. There's a dark night there's a dark night of the soul, and then there's a merging into the new dawn. And we're in that in-between. That's the in-between stage. And just as we have dusk and dawn in our everyday, we have that in our life as well. You could say that the dawn is like where we get our clarity, where we get our balance. And we can have above and below, and then there's the center, our heart, or left and right, and again the center, which is really the pineal gland sits in the center of our brain, And that's what moderates the left and right. That's what the pineal gland does. So to work on decalcify, you can play sounds that decalcify your pineal gland. And you start doing that, it's really quite amazing. I've been doing that for a while. And I start having these incredible dreams, and I start just thinking about something now, and boom, someone will mention it straight away, or I start manifesting things. So it's quite interesting when you start working on your pineal gland. It's the master gland. It's the third eye for a reason. It's the real third eye. Intention, we need to intend something. That's the seed. The attention is the nurturing, the watering, the maintaining, and then we have action that follows from that. So the intention is like these are also, like, it could be seen as the seed, the planting, or should I say the seed, the growing stage, and then the fruit of our action. So this is all how nature works. This is how creation works. You plant something in the soil, it grows, and then you look after it, and then eventually you pick it. You pick the fruit, or you eat it. And then so that we can go and have the energy to go and do it all again. And these cycles are happening all the time in our life. One of my 3 key things, or values, if you like, for my life is truth, consciousness, and freedom. So truth is my foundation. That's what I live by, my truth. The consciousness is the process that I'm employing, learning to be conscious aware, constant ongoing process. And then freedom, you could say, is the goal. And so that's one of my key trinities. It's also expressed in as the creator, creating creation, which is also the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Father is the positive electric. The Mother is the magnetic feminine, and the Son is the creation. That is, the prodigal son is what you create from. So it's really an electromagnetic term, but they put it into a parable of as a mother and a father and a son. But it's talking about creation. It's not gender created. It's not to do with gender, should I say. And then, like in anything, any story, in any journey, you're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Very simplified, but it's basic, ingrained in everything we do. We start somewhere, a project, we go through maintaining or growing the project. That's the middle, and then we have an end result, and you'll see that playing out constantly within your own life, within relationships, businesses, work, people coming, going, and the world at large. So I think that we're coming to a time in this world where the Bible, there's certain aspects of the Bible. I know it was basically written by the powers that be back in the day, but there's a lot of seeded truth in that, because the Bible is actually a collection of 66 books, and a lot of those books were written by masters, the hybrids, the watchers, who were seeding information for us to find later, and it was basically coding the truth. I'm not a religious person. I've been in a church a few times, but I'm not as a Christian as such. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. I think if people want to be Christians, then basically being a good Christian is being someone who is following the teachings that were given. Do unto others as you do unto yourself. Be basically a good person, find God within, help thy neighbor, and all that. I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with being in religion. It's just that the religious construct can sometimes be quite, I find, restrictive for me, you know. But I believe in a lot of what's in the Bible, and I think there's a lot of truth in there. It's just that you've got to know how to read parables and code and all of that. And then there's the rapture. They talk about the rapture, which I believe is just the Christ returning to earth is just Christed consciousness. It's a certain level of consciousness in the world where we realize, you know, as a en masse, who we are. And I believe that we're also in the tribulation now. We're coming into the tribulation. We had, I think, Revelation. I think Revelation was basically 2012 was a marker, and I think 2012 was signifying the beginning of Revelation. And we had all these revelations that came out into the world for 7 years, roughly 7 years. And then that took us up to 2020, where COVID hit. And then since 2020, we are in the tribulation as another basic 7-year cycle that'll take us to around 2026. And so I see quite a lot of chaos and a lot of change in the world in the next few years, particularly up till 2026, 2027. And then from there, I believe we'll start moving into a whole new world. Not for everyone, because everyone's at different levels. So I see that, but I see the Great Awakening really starting to show full manifest from that end of 2025 and into 2026. That's just my opinion. It's just my feeling that we're in for an incredible time from 2012. Things are going to get a lot better. It won't be perfect. It's going to take probably years for it to get, you know, it won't be some utopia, but it'll certainly, we'll start seeing a lot more sensibility and balance coming in the world. So I think we're in for a bit of a system collapse, but I see it more of a system reset before it fully collapses, and then a kind of rebirth. And I believe a lot of the rebirth will come about because of a number of things, including technology, good technology being used by conscious people, because technology of itself is nothing without a human to create it. So I think technology, and a kind of, we reach a critical mass of awakened souls that help to then awaken others who maybe are struggling, and then all of a sudden they have a kind of revelation, because energy precedes thought. Energy will go out and it will touch these people from the unity of the people that are really awakening and holding the energy for the others. Then I think that what happens is, you know, there's a grand mystery to this world. There's a grand mystery that we don't know what's really going on. I mean, but we're going to start to see an unveiling of that mystery. We're going to start seeing some incredible things. Yeah, there will be still some very hard, hurtful things happening, but I think we're going to see some incredible things happening as well. And I think what will happen is that we will start, those who are really ready to ascend, which means to basically expand their consciousness. That's really what it means to me, in your body, not out of your body. They will start creating a parallel economy to the current matrix. We'll kind of start, we'll all be living on Earth, but groups of people will start forming around others who are really awake in frequency, in higher frequency, and those who are in lower frequency will congregate in their communities. But everyone's going to be growing at some level, even if they don't think they are, because of the energies that are coming to Earth. It's all it's doing is it's creating a purging. There's a purging effect going on, and for the old energy to come out, good energy has to come in. And as the good energy comes in, there has to be a transition. And that's happening on a world level, as well as an individual level, as well as a community level. So we're all kind of in this cauldron of energies, but there will be like breakaway almost societies, I think, that will emulate how we could live on Earth, and gradually more and more people will find that, and it'll, over the next few decades or hundreds of years, the Earth will eventually become a wonderful paradise, a Garden of Eden, if you like, or whatever, in times to come again. And we're the early pioneers that are helping to bring that to manifest. So the divine creator or intelligent field of creation is a great mystery, but we're going to unlock that, and we must get brought to the brink of destruction in order for us to grow and to rise. I think that's why, for the masses, although it's hard, but we're going to have to look into the eyes of death, if you like, in order to find life. And that's just the way humans are. And also our DNA contains our key codes that, when unlocked, will transform and transcend our present 3D, 4D life. And the DNA is really where the real mystery lies. And we're literally walking around encoded with, you could say, God, the God code, as Greg Braden called it. And but it's dormant. Our scientists call it junk DNA. It's not junk DNA. It's just DNA that hasn't been activated yet. It's DNA that's lying dormant, and it will get reawakened. And it could be an external event like a solar flash. It could be, they talk about this rapture event. It could be just a high frequency, it could be, I don't know, ETs might come down and bless us all or something, and that just lights us up. But whatever, I mean, I'm just joking, but I mean, really, it's that DNA is, at some stage, is going to be reawakened. And when it does, then we will know we're in a beautiful world, that's for sure. And so basically that's the end of my presentation. Hi, good to see you all here, still here. We've got I've gone incredible. I've gone nearly 2 hours. I can believe it. And so that is a long time to be going, but so I really appreciate those who stuck through all that. Thank you all for coming again. I think I might just leave it at that, as we've gone long enough. And if anyone wants the recording, we can